Well, hello there everyone, my name is Amy, this is the Opinionated Woman, and welcome to Crafty Reads, a series where I craft something and we talk about the last 5 books that I've read. I'm actually crafting something new. Miracle! I'm working on a tapestry project at the moment, but that is like serious brain power, so it's a at my desk kind of project, not a I can film this while talking about books kind of project, so, and also like sitting on the couch. So I've started this top. It's from a crochet magazine that I got when I was in the UK a year ago, and I've had the yarn for it waiting, and I just haven't had the opportunity to start it yet, and now I do, and I'm very excited about it. I love the pattern of the stitch. It's so pretty, and I don't have anything crocheted that's specifically for winter, I mean for summer, so this is going to be a really good one. So this is what we're going to work on. Let's talk about some books. The first book I read was Orlando by Virginia Woolf, and I've always heard about this one, but I didn't know too much about it. And then I found out that the Book Lounge, which is my favorite bookshop in Cape Town, is doing a queer book club. So if you are in Cape Town and you're looking for a queer book club and like a place where you can talk to other queers about queer books, definitely email the Book Lounge and get some info about it, because it's very, like, I had such a great time at my first one, and it was just so lovely to have that kind of environment. I've never been in a book club before, so having it as a queer book club was at my favorite bookshop was just like a 10 out of 10 experience. So the first book that they chose was Orlando by Virginia Woolf, because this is like a queer classic, and it doesn't read like a classic. Like, I can't believe with the subject matter of this book that it was written in the 30s. It's absolutely wild to me that this is when this came out. But we're following our main character, Orlando. He is the drama. Like, oh my God, is he the drama. Falling in love with people and writing this one poem called The Oak over years and years and years. And then at one moment there's a transition, and it turns out he's actually a woman. I don't know whether he transformed from a man to a woman, or whether he's been a woman the whole time. I don't actually know, because this is kind of like magical realism, because he also lives to be like 300 years old. Like, he sees the 1800s begin, but he also experiences trains and cars in his lifetime. And then there's certain people throughout the story that also have longer lifespans than normal, but none of it's really explained. So like, parts of the story she's living as a man, and parts of the story she's living as a woman, and sometimes she just sleeps for a week, and they'll come and like bash pans together outside her room, and they won't be able to get her to wake up. And it's weird and wonderful and really not fully explained. So like, I can see how some people who like things to be sort of laid out very clearly would find this book a little bit overwhelming, but it's very short, and I found it like just to be a freaking wild ride. I listened to this mostly driving home from work, and I was just like, what the fuck am I listening to? It was absolutely wonderful. And like, if you're intimidated by classics, but you want to read some like a seminally queer novel, you need to read Virginia Woolf's Orlando. Highly recommend. Then something else, super homo, and that's Stag by Torrey Peters. I actually, speaking of the Book Lounge, went to the Book Lounge for the launch of this, and Torrey Peters joined us on Zoom, and she talked about it, and it made me want to get into this book very quickly. It's taken me a few months, but I finally got into Stag, and just, I could eat Torrey Peters' writing with a fucking spoon. It is so freaking wonderful. So Stag is one short novel called Stag, and then 3 short stories. My favorite short story was Inject Yourself in Others, where this trans woman starts a pandemic because she wants to get back at her ex-girlfriend. And then the main story, like, it's basically about messy trans people, like messy queers and messy trans people, because sometimes I feel like trans people are put on a pedestal in the way that they, like, the people who support them, like, don't see the fact that they can be totally messy and weirdos, just like the rest of us are allowed to be crazy and weird and nuts. And she just shows like the real messy side of being trans and like working with gender and stuff like that. So the main story, oh dear, I made a mistake. The main story stag dance in this, we're following a lumberjack called Babe Bunyan, and he is this absolute colossus of a man. He's huge, and he's doing an illegal, he's working on an illegal felling site. And the basis of the story is based on true events, like not necessarily the characters themselves, but the way that stag dances used to happen. Like, this is an historically accurate depiction of this, because if someone told me this story, I'd be like, that's like a little bit over the top, and like I doubt that would ever happen. But 100% this type of stag dance happened in real life. So a stag dance is like a dance that happens in the logging community, and because they're out in the snow, like completely isolated for like months at a time. So they have a dance and they get a bunch of liquor, and anybody who wants to go to the dance as a woman needs to wear a triangle of fabric in front of his crotch, like on the front of his pants. And that tells the other people in the camp that he wants to be courted. And even though Babe is this massive, manly man, he is absolutely besotted by the idea of wearing the triangle and being the beautiful woman for the night. And it's so full of subtlety and mess. And there's just a really interesting way of looking at gender in such a hyper masculine sort of situation. And the way that certain people, like, their real feelings are kept secret until they are let out, and like it's in like a seen to be a socially acceptable situation. And it's just, it's just so good. Torrey Peters is a fucking master. Like, she knows what she is doing. I will read every single word that this woman writes, and like the fact that I saw her talk about it beforehand added so much to it. And she's also super fine. She's super fine, and she's really smart and intelligent, and she showed us some estrogen that her and her friends had cooked in her friend's kitchen. She was like, oh yeah, we made this last week. And she has a T for T tattoo, like that they stick and poked. She's just such a cool person, and it comes through in the writing, and what a fucking cool book. Then I read Stay Gold by Tobly McSmith, and this has been on my Everand TBR for the longest time, and I was like, I wanted to read something queer and trans and YA, so I decided to pick it up. And like, there's certain YA books, like I think YA is for everybody. Like, you don't have to be of the YA age range to read YA. It's like totally valid for you to want to read it. But certain YA is written in a way that makes it more palatable to the adult audience as well. And this one is written quite young. So it's definitely more aimed at the teenage sort of age range. But it was very sweet, but it was very, very cheesy. And it was very much beginner, like, let's teach someone about the trans experience. And like, I luckily in my education about trans people am not at that stage anymore. So it was a little corny. And the ending was also like cheese on toast, like, but it was very, very sweet. Let me just give you a basic overview of what it was about. So we're following our main character, Pony. I know, Pony. Trans boys and their names. So Pony has just started at a new school in Texas, and he was out at his last school, and he had a lot of issues because of it. So at this school, and his dad is very much not accepting of who he is, but his mother is supportive. And at this school, he's decided that he wants to go stealth, much to the chagrin of his like queer friends and stuff. So he immediately on his first day locks eyes with the cheerleader and falls head over heels in love with the cheerleader. And we also get her point of view. What's her name? I want to say her name's Olivia, but that's because I pictured her as Olivia Rodrigo. Georgia. Her name's Georgia. And we get her point of view, and she's very much typical teenage girl. They're doing pranks on the football team and all of that kind of stuff while she's in the cheerleading squad. And she has to... She also very much like concentrates on like her image and what other people think about her. And we see her sort of progress in that not being such a big deal anymore. Her actually realizing that it's much more freeing just to be yourself, and that the people around you don't accept you, then they're not really your real friends. So yeah, it's a romance between Pony and Georgia, and there's also a lot about trans exploration at the same time. And it's cute and silly, and if you have a teenager, it's probably a good one for them to read. But if you're an adult YA reader, it's not as good as the other trans YA novels that I've read before. And I read The Woman Next Door by Yewande Omotoso, and I love Yewande Omotoso. I've read 2 of her other books. I don't know how many books she actually has. I think this might be the 3rd. I think she might have 3 out, and I think I've just read this one. I obviously just read this one. Duh. But this one is about 2 octogenarian neighbors in Constantia, darling. And they are mortal enemies. I mean, one of them even has binoculars, and she'll sit on her porch after like demanding that her domestic worker makes her tea, and she'll stare next door with her binoculars to see what's going on, because she designed the house that's living the house next door. So the lady with the binoculars is called Marion. She's a white woman who married an Italian man. She has 4 children, and she's going through a bit of money trouble at the moment. And then next door in the house that she designed as an architect, we have Hortensia, who is a designer and married a white man. And her and Marion are always at their throats, especially at the community meetings about the area and stuff like that. They're always like at each other's throats. So it's this very amusing rivalry between these. God damn it, my freaking camera cut out when I was talking about this, and like I missed the last part of the book that I was talking about right at the end. So let me try that again. Very annoying. Like I want to check that it's filming 600 fucking times. So basically these 2 have a really contentious relationship, and but they actually have more in common than they think, especially when it comes to like issues that they had with their relationships. Hortensia very much to do with her husband, and Marion more to do with her children. And a certain event brings them together and brings them into the same house, and they sort of are forced to cohabitate, and they start to form a reluctant kind of closeness and like friendship that they didn't, like neither of them, like against both of their worlds kind of, and they start to see each other with a little bit more nuance, and to have some sympathy for each other. And Marion confronts the like elements of racism that she has in her thought process, especially having a black woman living in the house that she designed, that she feels that she has some claim to. and the sort of like microaggressions that she's been executing during her life as a white woman in South Africa, like that lived through apartheid. And yeah, them coming together in this way has really like changed each other's perspective on each other, and it's so well written. And yet again, I will read every single word Yewande Omotoso writes. She's freaking incredible. And then the last book that I read is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And yes, I know I'm the last person on this earth to read The Silent Patient, but I found there were very mixed reviews when this first came out. So I wasn't sure whether it was worth buying, and usually I would read this kind of book on audio, but I couldn't find it on Everand or on Libby. So I just didn't think that I was going to be giving it a go, and then I found it for 10 Rand in a hospice shop, and I was like, okay, I'll give anything a go for $10, you know? So this book is following Theo, who is a psychotherapist, and he goes to apply for a job at this certain psychiatric hospital and gets the job because there is a specific patient that he wants to treat in there, and he wants to find out more about her story, because one day this woman, whose name I can't remember, Alicia, she seemingly out of nowhere one day just up and murdered her husband and tried to take herself out at the same time, and she hasn't spoken a word since that happened, and it's very intriguing to Theo, and he wants to find out like what's going on behind her psyche and wants to get her talking, to see, to basically see if he can break his way in, which no other therapist has managed to do, and he kind of gets obsessed with her. And then we also get a side plot of Theo realizing that his long-term girlfriend has been cheating on him, and the sort of like unhinged way that he deals with that, which is really interesting because like he's a therapist, so you expect him to deal with this in a very mature and professional way, but he absolutely does not. He deals with this in an absolutely psycho way. And it's just very interesting the way that it goes together. The twist is really twisty and twisted. And I thought it was really well executed. I had a good time with it. I can see why some people might not like it that much, but it hit the spots for me with what I'm looking for in a thriller, and I thought it was a good old read. So for the second time, I hope you did enjoy that. That's all of the books that I have to talk to you about. Please tell me if you've read any of these books down below, especially Orlando, The Woman Next Door, and Stag Dance, because those are like my standouts from this video. If you want to see my crochet creations, I have a shop called Real Gay Crochet. My Shopify link is down below if you want to buy any goodies from me. If you are international, you can send me an email, or send me a DM. I'll take you to emails and we'll sort it out there, because at the moment I can't ship internationally from my Shopify store. And down there is also my TikTok and my Instagram, which I post on all the time. I do 60-second reviews of all of the books that I read if you want to see a little bit of my thoughts before I actually get down to sit and talk about them properly in this setting. And there's also a Kofi link down there, which is a one-time tip jar if you ever want to support my channel. But other than that, like and subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll check you next time.